Welcome to the first EOSC Ask Me Anything webinar. In these webinars that are presented by several of the Horizon 2020 projects working on EOSC, we will be presenting a different service or resource available to EOSC every month. This month, the first category that we're going to tackle is data storage. As one of our speakers just said right before the event, he said, yeah, data storage is data storage. Everyone knows what it is, but still they're going to show you the ins and outs of data storage through EOSC and present use cases as well. We have 3 speakers today. You'll first get an introduction by Debora Testi, responsible for user engagement at UDAT and a project coordinator at the CINECA Supercomputer Center, and also the coordinator of the DICE project. Then we'll have more info by Raul Palma, who is head of the Data Analytics and Semantics Department at the Poznan Supercomputing and Networking Center and the coordinator of DICE. And then we have a final speaker, Pedro Goncalves, Director of Business Development at TERRADUE and the technical coordinator of Reliance. Important to know is that during the session, we'll be collecting information from you via Slido. So in Slido, you can ask questions or you give feedback. And then after we've had the presentations, we'll go through that feedback and through the questions and address any issues that you've raised. You can post your own questions there, but you can also like and upvote the inputs that others are giving. So if someone else has said something that you think is particularly insightful or a question that you want to have the answer to, you can second their question there. You can join by simply scanning the QR code that you see on your screen now, or you can go to Slido and enter the code and the passwords that you see there and which you will also find in the chat. I'm handing over to our first speaker then. Debora, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Catherine, for the introduction. Just 1 second to share my screen. Can you just confirm if everything is okay with? Okay, great. Yes. Thank you. So thanks for the nice introduction. And the opportunity to speak to this first Ask Me Anything session organized by EOSC Future together with the InfraEOSC 7 project. As mentioned, today I'm more here as my role in DICE, of which I'm project coordinator. I will skip this as just been presented. So just a quick overview on what we will be talking today. So first of all, I will give a first overview of what type of services and resources are available in the data storage category in the EOSC portal. And then, as mentioned already, we will have 2 nice use cases from the Reliance project presented by Raul and Pedro that will show how these services can be used and fit the needs of specific community represented by Reliance. And then we will have the Q&A session. So first of all, I suppose you all know, but just as a quick reminder, the EOSC Marketplace is where researchers can discover, order, and access different services and resources. The portal provides a series of faceted searches that are meant to help users to narrow down their searches, and the categories one is one of those. And in particular, the access, physical, and infrastructure is the first category where data storage is included, and which is the topic of today. Then the other Ask Me Anything session will cover other categories of the EOSC Marketplace as in the slide. So as said, data storage, everyone know what it is. It includes services to store data, file, or digital objects. In the EOSC Marketplace, these categories represent more or less 5% of the total resources available. The number of services might be different if you go now, because it's as it is a live environment, there are always new services that are being onboarded, but more or less the percentage is this one. And they represent, they cover more or less 15% of the total orders that have been received so far in the EOSC Marketplace. Within the category, they are then subdivided into different subcategories that are trying to map the features that can be a data storage service can have, like hosting online or offline file, providing backup, providing replicas of the files, or the possibility to have synchronized data. If we look at the research data workflow, which starts obviously with the generation of data through different steps until to the publication to the general public of the research data, the data storage categories cover more or less the central part of this diagram. And in particular, they would cover in general, four type of storage. The midterm one, which is the one used during a project, during a running a research project for active data, is normally very good connected to computing facilities. Then we have midterm storage that is used in between projects or after a project, still accessible from computing facility, but it's normally used to store data that are not active anymore, so they are not being changed frequently anymore. Then we have mid-long-term storage, which is used to store stable research data, not active anymore, where optional features and services can be added, like check on integrity, replication of data into different location, and others. And then we have the long-term preservation and sharing of non-active FAIR data. These are the main categories of the services, but as mentioned, we have quite few storage services in the US marketplace. And I will now give a very quick introduction of the most used services in these categories, starting from those three services that are in the data storage categories that are provided by UDAT Collaborative Data Infrastructure and are part of the DICE service offering. The first one is B2Save, which is a service that provides an abstraction layer to virtualize large-scale data resources. It provides long-term archiving and preservation, and it optimizes access for users from different regions. And enormously, it also allows to bring data close to supercomputing or high throughput computing facilities for the processing. It optionally offers a possibility to include data management policies like the assignment of persistent identifiers to the data object or replica across different sites. This policy can be customized to meet the community and organization needs of a group or research group. This service can be used both for archival and active data and is supported through the network of UDAT service provider is supported with petabyte scale storage resources. It's accessible via different type of interfaces. It can be normally this service is very of interest for research community or research groups that needs kind of replication across different sites. Then we have B2Drop. B2Drop is again UDAT DICE service, is a user-friendly environment for storage that allows to synchronize active data across different locations and easily share the data also with peers. The service can be used by single researchers, just entering to the website of the service, where a free quota of 20 gigabytes is offered. But then community folder or research folder can be set up with a specific storage size and specific use. The service can be accessed via the web interface, but also with desktop client. It allows also to maintain multiple versions of files, and community services can be integrated with the service for their use and integration. The last UDAT service is B2Share. Again, is a service that is a researcher can use to store, publish, and share research data in a fair way. Again, this can be used by single researchers that can just go to the web-based portal and make use of the service, but also it supports the creation of community domains, also with metadata extension and accessing rules that can be customized to the specific communities. and it allows researchers or research group to make data available to wider community and to the global public. As part of DICE, we have also other resource service providers that are offering data storage services. One is CINECA that operates storage facility available through different means of access, supported by more than 100 petabytes of physical media. And the offer through DICE is of Ceph-based object storage available through S3 and other interfaces. And also it can be discussed with potential customer the activation of redundancy or replicas across different geographical location. And other two DICE partners are offering object storage, INFN and CSCS. And the particularity of object storage, just to say a few words, is that the file structure is not a tree-based structure, but unique ID are assigned to the object that is self-contained flat index. Object storage can be accessed via command line or REST API interface. All these are offered again by the DICE project. Two other data storage services are offered by AGI and AGI 8 project, which is one of the other Infra EOSC 7 projects. AGI online storage, it includes 3 types of storage services available in the AGI Federation. We have file storage that can be used for storing an accessible file as input-output of the AGI computing facilities. We have block storage that allows to expand the storage capacity of the AGI federated cloud, so to reduce latency for application, and object storage that can store massive amounts of unstructured data. Sorry. The other AGI service is AGI Data Hub, which is a service, data collection aggregation service, which aggregates different data provider. It is supported by a web portal for data discovery. Is an open data repository where sharing of data is easily done, and allows also metadata harvesting and PID and DOI mining. It has also a metadata indexing service, and it's a platform for hybrid cloud data management and processing environment. All the services that I mentioned so far are what we say generic services. So they have been designed and implemented to be able to serve different community needs independently from the scientific domain the community is working on. But the EOS marketplace also has a lot of thematic services and also the data storage category. These are services that have been prepared and are being offered by communities to serve the need of a specific communities. An example is the Opera Energy Platform service, which is an open and modular framework for research data management in energy system analysis and community database for energy data. It is the results of a community project started since 2015, running many years. It supports several research projects and involves more than an institution and university. Code is available on GitHub. It is developed through a transparent development process. There is already a community database, API, fact sheets, and new features are being implemented like data versioning, knowledge graph, and few more. As I mentioned, there are continuously new services that are being onboarded in the marketplace. And one, just to give you a feeling of what can be onboarded, will be onboarded in the future, is also the Earth Observation Data Federation service provided by C-Scale, which is the Copernicus EOSC analytics engine. C-Scale brings together Earth observation data providers like Sentinel Collaborative Ground Segments, CRIODIAS, and National Institute. And it aims to keep vast Earth observation data archive. The Earth Observation Data Federation will be providing storage capacity for Earth observation community and the processing power to achieve those results and process those results. It's not yet ready into the EOSC marketplace, but it will be soon and expected to be online by August this summer, this year. So new services, as I mentioned, can be anytime onboarded into the portal. So if you are part of a group or a research community that is building its own data storage service, this can be added. You can request to be added into the EOS portal too, which would be the added value of having a service presented in the EOS portal. First of all, you can use the EOS portal to promote your service to outside your normal network of contacts, so to reach a wider user base. You can get from the portal statistics about the number of visits to your service or the number of access requests. And you can have also for free the platform, which is the EOS portal, where you can manage the service request, interact with your user, and until you agree with the most suitable service to be offered. And also, obviously, you can join the group of providers to support and contribute to the definition and maintenance of EOS service provisioning policies and portfolio roadmap. To onboard a new service in the EOS portal, obviously, you have to adhere to the rule of participation, which are anyhow pretty simple. Obviously, the service should be accessible to user outside your institution. And there should be at least one service instance running in production. And this should be supported with all the needed documentation for users to make use of the service. Also, you have to provide a test channel and all the tools needed by the user to get back to you with bug reporting or requirements. Accessing onboarding the service is quite easy, can be done via the web portal. You just first to register your institution as an EOS provider, and after this is accepted, then new resources can be offered by your institution via the portal. One important information that you will be asked to add when you onboard your service is which type of access the user has. So in which way the user can access your service. And there are basically two main categories. The first one is open access. So basically the user can just go directly through the website. Maybe there is registration needed, but there is no formal approval or no first exchange of information with the customer before he can indeed access the service. And in this case, the EOS portal will just act as a forwarding the request to the service website. Or it can be closed access, so meaning that the user should make a request to you to access the service. And in this case, then you can choose if you would deal with the orders request yourself. So you have to provide the link where then the user can go and fill in the request, or you can have this managed by the EOS marketplace and the EOS team. This means that the EOS team will get the request first. They will check if the request is complete, all the information are filled in, and then this will be forwarded to the provider. This type of managing the orders might seem a bit overwhelming for a service provider that maybe already has its own way to have user making requests for the service, but it's very useful for a user who would like to request more than one service at a time or services from different providers. So this would help user to have just one entry point, and then the EOS team will take care of contacting all the providers and putting them together. Just as a final note, as I mentioned already a few times, the different DICE EGIA's Reliance project. So obviously normally data storage services, because they have, apart from the customization and the personalization that you might need, there are quite some resources behind. These services normally come at a price or a cost. But there is a big opportunity now, thanks to the Infra EOSCO 7 funding from the European Commission, to have access for free to those services until June 2023, at least for the standard configuration of the service. That I think is everything I had to present. So I can give probably the floor to Raul and Pedro for the use case presentation.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. I will start sharing my screen now. Okay, so everything okay? You can see, right? Okay, good. So I will start introducing one of our use cases in Reliance about how we are using and leveraging the services from DICE. In particular, we are going to focus on one of those, which is called B2Drop. But in fact, we are actually using more than one already. So Pedro will also give some additional use case after me. So I am from Poznan Supercomputing and Networking Center in Poland. I am the coordinator of Reliance project. And in order to introduce you to this use case, I need, of course, to give you a bit of context of Reliance. So basically, Reliance is it's a project that is trying or aiming to extend the EOS capabilities with an enhanced support for research activities through a set of interconnected services and that are in alignment with the EOS interoperability framework. So we are adopting a holistic approach for the research lifecycle management in order to enhance the discovery and access to research results, research data. This includes also Copernicus data because it's one of the very important aspects in our project. We are also, of course, aiming to improve the extraction of relevant information and manage the whole research life cycle, promoting the fair and open science principle. We are demonstrating our services via 3 earth science communities that we are bringing with Reliance to EOSC as well. And we will engage others via an open call or challenge that we will start soon as well by the spring this year. We are, of course, based on that, trying to foster the use of Copernicus data and also to try to enhance the support in EOS for multidisciplinary research. At the bottom, you can see the 3 earth science communities that we are bringing with Reliance. So we have sea monitoring researchers from Geohazards, and researchers from climate change. We will go into details more on one of these communities in the next presentation of Pedro. So as one of the core technologies of Reliance is research objects, and this is actually one of part of the use case of this use of B2Drop. Let me introduce a bit of what is the research object. The research object is basically a very rich, semantic rich information object that aims to account and describe and share everything about your research, including how the things are connected to each other. How, for example, results were generated, using which methods, and using which data as input, etc. So you can think as a research object as a logical container, which is like in a graphic, like a box, like you see in the diagram here. It has a unique identifier, first of all, so that means that you can reference it, cite it, and so on. And it aggregates information about the research, like hypotheses, the data used, the results produced, the methods employed, scientific workflows implementing those methods, the provenance of executions or provenance of the artifacts, the versioning, but also the people that was involved in the investigation, as well as annotations about these resources, like human readable and also in machine readable format, like title, description, types of resource, etc. So all of this is aggregated into the research object. So imagine this in a more simplified way, like this. It's basically providing you an integrated view over fragmented resources that can have, of course, their own permanent identifiers in metadata. So as you can see here in the box, all of these elements like protocols, workflows, software, etc., they might be stored and shared via different repositories, which there are plenty of many domain or community or institutional repositories that are used for those purposes. And then the research object is giving you like the entry point to all of those, to all of these resources. So you can, of course, encapsulate content, but also you can encapsulate the reference to these resources that might be dispersed in different repositories. So the arrow package has metadata. It can be registered, deposited in its own right. Of course, you can download it on CPET and access it. And also you can even reproduce it if it's appropriate, depending on the type of research object. So the one thing is, of course, once you have all your resources, let's say in a ready to publish format, but during the management of the research lifecycle, researchers are producing and generating multiple resources. So these resources are in many cases, again, scattered or not evenly shareable, because in many cases, our researchers are typically storing them in their own local computers, for example. In other cases, for example, these resources might be too large even to store in the local computer, so the researchers have a big problem with that. So in this scenario is where we are bringing B2Drop. B2Drop can be used as a personal storage space to store all of these resources, and this would be managed transparently by the platform managing the research object, which is called ArrowHub. So the research object will connect and describe all of these resources that are stored in B2Drop, and they will be like serving as an entry point, connecting not only this personal data that was created by different researchers, but also to other resources that might be dispersed in other repositories as well. So here in the diagram, for example, you can see how we are envisioning our scenario, where we start with some kind of research object which is in the live mode. That means that it's in working mode, so people are collaboratively working in the construction of some scientific or research work, and resources might be at any point in time stored in B2Drop. Then, of course, at certain particular milestones of the research, the researcher can make some kind of a snapshot of the research object. And in this case, he can, of course, also publish this snapshot in platforms like B2Share and Zenodo, which we are already doing as well. And at the end, of course, of the research, when the researchers finalize the scientific work and reach the conclusions, they can, of course, publish everything in those platforms as well. So that's the current scenario that we are working on. So how we are doing this in the ArrowHub platform. So basically, when you start the creation of the research object, which is on the top right of this diagram, of these pictures, you are just dropping your resources into the platform. That resources can be, of course, links to either resources that are stored externally, but also links, the resources, physical resources themselves. And in the case we are putting physical resources, we are working on giving the possibility to the researchers to say, okay, I want to store these resources in my B2Drop. So then it will go directly into the B2Drop dashboard, and this will be accessible via the B2Drop dashboard. And of course, when the user or other researchers are going to the research object, they can go and access these resources as well via the research object. They go to the B2Drop resource itself. So the key points here to finalize, well, B2Drop is a valuable service for researchers in Reliance to keep their research data synchronized and up to date, and to share with other researchers. It is used as a personal storage space by those researchers, and complements other EOS services that we are using in Reliance. We are using DataHub as a community space, B2Share as publication service for research object snapshots, as I mentioned. And research object in Reliance can connect resources in B2Drop with other resources that are produced in the research work, which may be scattered in different locations and repositories. And ArrowHub is now in this process of integration with the B2Drop to give this possibility of using it as a default storage for internal resources. And this integration is being done using the user credentials, that mean via the tokens, to allow the researchers to access these resources via his own dashboard in B2Drop. And with that, I am passing the floor to Pedro. If you've got, of course, any questions, I will be happy to answer as well.
Thank you very much, Raul. Let me start sharing my screen. Okay, share. Thank you very much, Raul. Thank you very much for your future, for this the invitation for us to present here, the opportunity to show what we are actually collaborating with the different EOSC projects and with in Reliance. And here will be a precise, very precise topic about how we are using the DICE storage services for the Geohazards community for their work in terrain motion and volcanic activity. So the Slido, then. Okay, geohazards, just as short introductions, are really including volcanic activity, earthquakes, and landslides. Is a very important topic of research and of activity that we at TERRADUE and our partners in Reliance are quite active. And in particular, we are working with the geohazard supersites and natural laboratories. This is something coming from the group of NERD observation. It's a global initiative to improve and coordinate geohazards scientific research and hazard assessment in supporting for disaster risk reduction. And there are selected sites of geohazard supersites, that is an area that is really prone to high seismic or volcanic hazards. So around the world, you have this type of areas that we collect the data and we collect models to work on it. Mainly, their way of working, this community way of working, it involves data, it involves software, it involves computing facilities, it involves results, data management, collaboration. All this was slightly introduced by Raul in the entire research object concept. Here in this presentation, I will focus on the problematic of how do you access data, how do you access long time series of satellite imagery. And this is an important key point on their research because they really need this part. We have in Europe, probably quite aware, the Sentinel satellites, a huge source of information, a huge volume of information per day, and really important for this community is in particular the data coming from Sentinel-1. And for this, initially, the Commission had set up what they call the Copernicus Data Information Access Services, the DIAs. They involved, they are sponsoring 5 big projects, and this represented an opportunity to federate the access to to this really data deluge of Copernicus data, of satellite data, together with processing facilities. And there was this promising of researchers to easily build applications and added value processing with large time series. But then by the second half of 2020, we start seeing that the data was no longer online, but moving to a rolling cache or the long-term storage. And this involved order and wait, access the data. There was difficult in terms of getting a large time series of data as this community needs. So if you wanted just to have the last image from yesterday, it's straightforward. But if you really are researching an area in a long time series, this is a really problem. And this was a question that for us was key because we're having data processing, data pipelines that are processing observation data. But at the same time, this problem appeared as an opportunity also for Reliance and EOSC. And when we discuss this with the DICE project, we see, and DICE we already presented, but DICE was really an opportunity to help us out in this issue in terms of establishing a collaboration with the DICE project that specifically for these areas of the world will give us the storage to a particular type of data, of Sentinel-1 data, the SLC, that normally it's not stored by any of online by any of the providers, and having the full mission over this location and also nearby with processing resources. So this was the strong collaboration we are having with DICE, as Debora was mentioning. And so this is our activity, is populating that data for those specific data sites, then having to deploying a specific catalog, a spatial temporal asset catalog, so that we are able to give access not only to the data itself, but also to tools to discover, to map, to do also accessible from a Jupyter notebook, that people can really understand what are the data that is available, the metadata, in terms of the all the particular points of the data acquisition. And then nearby, we are also deploying Kubernetes processing, so in a way that we are able to package applications and then deploy and really using this information to develop what we call the Copernicus data pipelines. In terms of showcase, what we are doing now is really defining the application package. So the community has access to the data. We need to define the application, the different application package they are going to develop. To test and to validate this application deployment first at PSNC and then in EOSC, and document the full cycle as a research object. So the application package, the OGC application package, will package inside of the research object all the components that you need for the processing, for the replication, the reproducibility of your application. And for this, we are using a common workflow language, a stack catalog. There is a best practice that we just published in the OGC about this. In the objective, the final objective to close this loop is really to deliver this data then to the DataCube service that Reliance is providing. So the key points here, this collaboration between DICE and Reliance, we really provide access to long time series of Sentinel-1 SLC data to our community. Currently, this is quite not so straightforward to have it in any of the Copernicus providers. And then the EOSC and PSNC resources will really offer a virtual environment to access, to store, and analyze this data in the support of development of services that are using cloud resources. And the big point here is we have a virtual environment where the Earth observation applications can be packaged and make ready for deployment in distributed resources. So thank you very much. I think I have, being the last, I also have to mention that you have a next seminar at 1st of March. But now I think it's the question time, Deborah and the other participants.
Yes, we'll take you through your questions that you have posted on Slido now. Just a second while I share my screen.
I will stop mine. I will stop. Yeah. Stop it.
Okay, I'm going to try. Do you all see my screen?
Yes.
Good. Then let's go through some of these questions. So a question that got most upvotes is, do you have a service that is designed for storage of sensitive research data, referencing specific categories of personal data and GDPR compliance? Is there any of the speakers that wants to take that, or maybe some of the experts that are also attending in the audience? I
can start that. There are not in the specific data storage categories, but there are a few services into other data categories in the marketplace that cover a bit this. There are not many because the sensitive data is very as big issues, legal, etc. We have also in DICE work ongoing to let's say, enhance some of our services like B2Share for a specific version, which will be compliant to store sensitive data. But this is still work in progress. We hope we'll be able to release this soon to the public.
Okay, I don't know who asked this, but if it wasn't clear, then please don't hesitate to follow up via Slido as well, or put something in the chat and then we'll check it there. The second question that got the most upvotes is, how actively is RO Hub currently being used by researchers? So how many active users does it have? How many ROs are being stored? Anyone that wants to take that?
Yeah, sure, I will take that. Yeah, the interesting question. So, you know, the work of research objects in NanoHub started in the past in another project where we already started collaborating with the earth science communities. So at that time we reached something about like these 50 active users, or between 50 and 80 active users of this platform in these research communities. But this was just like an initial proof of test. In Reliance, we are, of course, extending these communities and enlarging not only the current ones, but also bringing new ones. So now that we are having just made the onboarding of the service in the EOS marketplace and everything, and we are going to start this challenge, we are expecting like definitely increase on that side. And regarding the number of research objects, again, we had like 3,000 from the previous project generated by our users that we are migrating to this new release that we onboarded into the EOS marketplace. So that's more or less the numbers that you can see at the moment. But of course, we are expecting big increase with this new year of now that everything is onboarding and we start the challenges for onboarding new communities.
Okay, and another question that we have is what the quota is for EGI Data Hub services. Does anyone know that by heart? And maybe someone from
don't,
I can reply
yeah, please.
from EGI, sorry. Yes, so basically when you access the service, if you go to datahub.egi.eu, you have access to a playground space, which is basically available for everyone for testing. But then if you want a specific dedicated quota, you will have to contact us via putting an order on the marketplace, and then we will discuss about requirements on quota. And so there is not like a default quota for each user. So it's something that we'll have to discuss if you put an order in the marketplace.
Okay. Again, hope that that's clear for whoever asked the question. If not, feel free to follow up via the chat or via Slido again. Someone asked, are there services available in the EOSC portal right now for the DMP for Horizon 2020 projects?
I might say something about that. I mean, I'm not really sure if I understand the question, but if there are some services in the EOS portal that can be used to create a DMP, there is an Argos tool that is available from OpenAir Nexus project that is allowing you the creation of DMPs.
And I think I want to step in myself there as well, which is there. So as was mentioned, there's the Argos tool and other tools that are available to help you do your DMP. What we're producing as part of the EOS Future project right now is good guidelines of how to use these tools and how to incorporate EOSC in your DMP practices, not specifically for Horizon 2020, more geared towards Horizon Europe, because the most projects that are going to be looking at that right now will be Horizon Europe's. But that's info that's forthcoming in the next months. So it's not services available, but more guidance available of how to do that, which tools to use to facilitate that for you.
Yeah, and
yeah, go ahead,
Sarah. I was just going to flag there's a few tools available through the portal. There's DMP Online as well, which has been picked up by a few institutions. So you might have customized support within the tool about what's available from your university as well.
So the next question that was asked by a lot of people is, why do you use CC BY and D? Which is, I think, a question I'm going to take because I made the slides. This is what we decided to go for the EOSC Future project and what we've copied here, because we're very welcome for you to copy and to share that, giving us attribution. What we're a bit hesitant about sometimes is that if you change the info, that there might be misrepresentations. That being said, I think all the speakers here are very welcome, if you want to do that, to just have you check with them and then start from that. I think in most cases it would not be a problem at all to do that, but it would be good to check first specifically, because during some of these sessions, we might also be presenting things that are still being developed or not quite ready. So that's why we opted for that in EOSC Future, and why I decided to take it here as well. I think something that someone else would be better placed to answer is B2Drop based on Nextcloud?
Yeah, that is a simple answer, because the answer is yes, indeed. The background technology is Nextcloud, and B2Drop has been implemented on top of that.
And I see that someone just asked a question that's related to that. It's how does how would an individual researcher get access to B2Drop? Can it be access to an institutional login? How would they go about that?
Yeah, so I can speak for B2Drop. So yeah, B2Drop is integrated with B2 Access, which is one of the AI of EOSC. So the user can just simply log in using his institutional login email via the B2 Access service, and then yeah, if as for data, if there is no specific requirements, it's for individual use, the user can simply use the 20 GB of space provided by default. If there are requirements for bigger space, specific folder to be shared with colleagues, etc., then a request should be simply dropped via the EOSC Marketplace, and we will take care of it and discuss the details.
Yeah, I can complement this the part of ROHAB. So similar to B2Drop, and we are connecting using the EOSC AI. We are using EI check-in, but it's quite similar to B2 Access. So basically, you can use any of the institutional accounts to access the resources in EOSC. It's one, it's part of the EOSC, as well as you can use any of your social accounts as well. So whatever is possible to access via the EOSC AI, you can use in ROHAB as well as B2Drop. And in the case of this integration, what we are just making this transparent to the user is just via some access token, like user token, sorry, that is provided by B2Drop. The user, of course, needs to provide this information in his account in ROHAB. So then our ROHAB can access and manage his account in B2Drop transparently. But this is still not released, this full integration. So it's coming in the next weeks. It will be announced, the official integration.
Okay. I hope this makes it clearer for the person asking his, who I assume is an individual researcher. So good luck. I hope you'll find it easy to start using these services. And a question that I found interesting as well is whether there's user review functionalities in EOSC. So if you use a service or if you use a product, can you review it afterwards?
Yeah, there is the EOSC Marketplace provides a review functionality where you can just like the comments on TripAdvisor or very standard ways of reviewing services. You can put stars, but you can also add comments for the service provider and the other user to know how the service is performing or if you find it useful or not. That is the public review process. Then obviously each provider obviously has also its own means and tools to collect feedback from user, and that will be more up to the specific provider. But in terms of EOSC, yes, the EOSC portal and marketplace provide this functionality. It's very easy to use.
Yeah, and I think interesting input for other users as well.
Yeah.
To see how other users find these services. Then we have two more existential questions. We'll take the first one here, which is some stakeholders consider software to be research data. Please elaborate on your take here. I think we could talk about that for a long time, but is there anyone who has particularly strong feelings about this.
I might jump here. Just fully agree that software is part of the research data, and that's one of the activities we are working on. Is how do you make the application package and how create not only the versioning, not only the GitHub, but also the entire environment where your software is running, and that you have a reproducible effect, really a true one. And we are working. We just finished publishing a best practice in how to package automation applications in such a way that you are able to run it in different infrastructures, but also a way to store it and to say, okay, I have these results, but the way I run it was with this application package. And then if you join on top of this with the concepts that Raul was mentioning in terms of the research object, then you join with all even the outputs, the papers, the data input, what was the paper that it was established, and there. So there is a quite an important work here.
Do all the speakers agree on this, or are we going to have a strong discussion about this?
Totally agree with that. I mean, you can also see in our deliverables when we were just in Reliance, we are taking also software as one very important artifact that we are considering as part of the research object. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in communication, which is what I do on one of these projects, I think I see people confusing data with data sets a lot of the time, and that's where the confusion comes from. So there's some disciplines where if you say data, they'll just think of data sets, whereas research data in comms, we tend to see it more broadly. Research data can also just be, it doesn't even need to be data sets. It can also be not software, but for instance, photos or something like that can also be research data. So that's, I think, a lot broader, but there is some discussion about that. And something that I'm looking for is a way of avoiding confusion there, because we can all agree here, as you say, that no, research data is broader, but if no one understands us when we're talking about it, then it's also a bit besides the point. So if anyone has insights on that, I would be happy to know.
There's probably Raul might say something, because there it enters one way that I think that when I first discussed this years ago with Raul, when he presented the concept of the research object, and that the research object has small boxes inside, that you have data, software, and so on, it was easier to explain, because the term research data, the term data sets, even I fully agree with your definition, but easily I might be distracted and might use it interchangeable. Sometimes we use it, okay? So the research object for me was an easy solution to define a box, and I put everything there.
Yeah.
So Raul, probably sorry for the oversimplification of the research objects, calling it a box, but okay.
Okay, then I'll take on for communication. The research object is a box, and we'll stop. I'll keep it at that. Then a final question is, I think, a difficult one, is why do you treat resources where registration is needed as open access? Because a person asking this question says that it goes against well-established definitions of open access. Is there anyone who wants to?
I will comment first, because that is coming from my slide. So first of all, I use the terminology that is currently used in the EOSC portal and provider dashboard. When you register a service, it is mentioned you have a pull down menu, and one of the categories called open access. And indeed, the reasoning behind that is simply that even if there is registration, there is no authorization mechanism. So like B2Drop, as we said, a researcher can just log in with his institutional email and use it. It's not open, so that you don't register. You register when you log in and register, but there is no approval process. So anyone who log in can make use of the service. That's why is classified under open access. I understand it might be a bit stretched if you want to use the original definition of open access, but that, I mean, most of the services will work only after you log in, apart from the very, very public discovery tool, but if you want to upload data or download data, you would need the registration step. But with open access, we mean there is no formal approval process. If there is an approval process, then it's something different, and is indeed not open access at all. I don't know if other views or comment on that.
Same way works Rohab. So I mean, anybody can just use it. I mean, as to find information. But if you want to upload something or do something, you need to just register. And without any, of course, approval, it's just that you need to register. We need to keep the provenance of what is happening. That's really important for as I mentioned in the beginning in the presentation of research. We need to keep a track of information of who is doing what in a research. That's the reason behind. Right?
Okay, I hope that's satisfactory for whoever asked that question. I first want to show one that I think will make our speakers happy, which is, have you already received sufficient recognition for your work? If not, thank you. So well done, speakers. I think EOSC projects and EOSC like EOSC as a whole would always be happy for more recognition and more visibility. So if you want to help out there, like, don't hesitate to talk about EOSC to other people and to promote it in your networks as well. That I think would make all of us quite happy. There's one question that we haven't gotten to, but I think it just got upvoted. Yes, here it is. Someone asking whether linked open data and domain ontologies will play a bigger role in the future. Debora, I see you're smiling. I hope that means that you have an answer to this.
No, sorry, I'm smiling because I don't have a clue. Sorry.
Well, I think that I can take this. Okay. Well, especially because the whole concept of research object is also based on linked data. So whatever we are providing and describing and aggregating, we are also making available as linked data. And that also includes, of course, at some point, because it's not yet available, but will include the possibility to have information of all of these activities that I mentioned, like the provenance or what happened. That kind of information can be also provided as linked data. So yeah, it's very important for in our cases. So in the case of research object, it's quite important. And this is part of the, some of you might heard about the ArrowCrate standardization efforts, which is, or at least the community effort that we are part of course, where we are defining the model and the specification of how to represent that research object, right? And this is based on linked data, schema.org, and technologies alike.
Okay, I hope that clarifies it. And now Debora and I know as well. Then I think an important one, we don't really have that much time left, but it's, someone's asking whether you could elaborate on why EOSC is important in all of this, because you could also get all these services independently. Who wants to take this one?
I would just like to start, but probably someone from EOSC could complete it afterwards. But as a community that is using the services, why we doing this part? I think there is the effect that for one side, there's the EOSC name, so that you are participating in something bigger, in a collaboration that's quite European-wide. Then the importance of having also the marketplace and to understanding the different types of services. And if you go to the marketplace, all those services are, then you have all the small commodities as the security, as the access, as all in the same place. So it's like your supermarket. Huh? So you could buy your yogurts independently, but if you go to the same place. Then there is this, the commodity of the marketplace, but also being part, I think is important for the communities to understand that they're being part and helping to build the EOSC, the European Open Science Cloud. I think this is an important point also.
Is there anyone that wants to add to that? Because I think
as just another comment, as I mentioned before, while I was presenting why you would like to join as a provider, EOSC is also the possibility to have EOSC acting like a glue, putting together different providers that would normally probably not work together because they are in different domains or in different groups or networks, and putting together services that would not come together naturally, but that might be useful together to other users and other providers. So let's say the connecting factor, I think, is also very important in the EOSC framework, apart from what I completely agree what Pedro mentioned before.
Yeah, I think as Pedro said, for users, it's precisely that you would not have to put in the effort to go use them independently. You'd have all of them in one place. It would take you less time. So hopefully that can be an added benefit. I saw that we have one more question that was asked if you still have time to take this, but then we are going to have to cut this off, which is someone saying that if you require registration for your resources, that usually means that they're not machine accessible. Is there anyone that wants to take this one?
Debora, want to?
I'm not sure.
Why not? And then the question in terms of, because if you have machine, you have tokens, or you have, so I'm probably not so technically to trying to disavow or be against this commentary, but I don't think it usually means, for me, I don't think so, but okay. I don't know if you can add more about this.
Yeah, because is it meant, I'm not sure what is meant here, that they're not directly accessible by machines. I think maybe, but
I think that for machine, if I understand correctly the comment, I'm not sure. For machine, it would be like for humans. I mean, you will have a different way, which will not be the login, but as Pedro mentioned, probably a token or something, and you will simply access. I mean, as the connection we are working on with Reliance between ROAB and B2Drop, so it's not, it's machine based, but it is
in data distribution, or even in terms also to execute services and so on, you have an operator that there's a user that is defining tokens, that then the machines can use it. Now, if this is probably, I don't know, probably the question was more complex than this.
Yeah, I think maybe if this is really important to whoever asked this question, you can follow up afterwards with one of our speakers, or file this as a question on the contact form on the EOSC portal, and then we can get back to you. I think this is where I want to leave it for now. The only thing that I want to draw your attention to is that this is a monthly affair. So next month, we're hoping to see you again for the session on software on the 1st of March. Same time, same place to register as well. And we're hoping to see you again then. And we have sessions announced for the month after that as well. And we'll be doing this hopefully for at least the coming year. There's plenty of stuff to go through on the EOSC portal. So we'll keep you busy if you want to. So I hope you enjoyed the session. Thanks very much to our speakers for their delightful presentations and for taking all your questions, and hopefully see you again next month.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Have a nice week.
Bye-bye.